Resilience is something that's in high demand these days in law enforcement, and my guest today, JP Dinnell, a member of SEAL Team 3 and part of Jocko Willink's tribe, is here to talk about how we can build it into our daily routines and we can survive and thrive in this environment.
You are a warrior.
321 status.
What kind of vehicle is it?
You are the very best your nation has to offer.
911.
Multiple shots fired.
They're asking you to lead.
5, we need a Bearcat.
It's up to us.
So 133, I need somebody that's got a visual on where the shooter is.
You must be sound in mind, body, and spirit.
40 feet, where's the officer down? I have a rescue helicopter that wants to land and help.
This is the podcast that will make you the one.
Copy running eastbound.
The one that will bring everyone back.
Trouble, we have shot fired. Give me backup now.
Because no one else is coming.
We're going to have an officer shot. 100 block of East Street.
Suspect is down.
This is the Squad Room.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Squad Room, where I help you learn the tactics, strategies, and mindset for having a successful life in our challenging career. My name is Garrett Tesla. I'm an active duty sergeant for a sheriff's officer in Southern California, and I'm on a mission to build a world where first responders wake up inspired, feel confident at work, and go home knowing they've spent their time in a worthy cause. We have a great episode today, a great one. But before we get to our guest, I want to remind you that you can support the show and rock some cool gear by visiting our apparel line at aworthycauselife.com. We got t-shirts and mugs and stickers and all sorts of cool stuff. And follow it on Instagram and Facebook at A Worthy Cause Life. Also, join the Facebook group of active and aspiring law enforcement professionals that are out there on Facebook chatting it up, sharing ideas, tips, strategies, news, etc. All the sorts of things that we do to help make ourselves better. My guest today, JP Dinnell. It's his second appearance on the show. JP is a fantastic guy, a great interview, and a very inspiring person for me personally, and I think for a lot of you as well. JP Dinnell is a former U.S. Navy SEAL, and he's now part of the leadership cadre and a speaker with Echelon Front, where he serves as Director of Tactical Training Programs. Jeremiah spent nearly a decade in SEAL teams with 3 combat deployments, and he was sent to the terrorist stronghold of Ramadi, Iraq in 2006 with SEAL Team 3's Task Unit Bruise. That is, of course, familiar to any of you as the unit led by Jocko Willink. JP served as a point man, machine gunner, and lead sniper for Delta Platoon, opposite the famous American sniper Chris Kyle in Charlie Platoon. He worked closely with SEAL officers Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, and he was the driving force on many of their daring combat operations that Jocko and Leif wrote about in Extreme Ownership. When he came home, JP again worked directly for Jocko as the training instructor at the Naval Special Warfare Group 1 Training Detachment, where he orchestrated many of the realistic and challenging special operations, urban combat, and close quarters combat training scenarios that helped the SEALs prepare for real-world battles. And he's also served as a combatives and marksmanship instructor, and he earned his Master Trainer Specialist qualification while helping Jocko rebuild and enhance the training programs on the West Coast. JP is on the show today to talk specifically about resilience. It's a buzzword. Many of us have a hard time defining it, but what I can say right now is it's very clear in the environment that we're in how important it is to develop your own resilience and your own emotional resilience plan. We're being challenged on the streets, literally, with bricks and bottles and Molotov cocktails. But we're also being challenged in our mindset. We're being challenged in how we think about how this job is going to be in the future and how it's going to change. And the only way to deal with change is to go through it with resilience. So JP is here to talk to us about that today. This episode is sponsored by Signature Coins. For months now, I've been looking for a way to say thank you to my guests and supporters. And after being involved in a major international incident recently, I was given quite a few challenge coins, and I was surprised at how much each of those meant to me. So I decided to make a Squad Room challenge coin to share with guests and supporters. I went searching for a company who could meet my high standards, but I was still nervous about making a purchase like this online. Most challenge coins you order these days are ordered online, produced in a factory far, far away, and tracking down someone in customer service can be, well, a challenge. And I'll admit that I'm kind of old school, and I prefer to look someone in the eye when I'm about to spend that much money. So I delayed on a decision on a vendor for a long time. until I found Signature Coins out of Florida. Turns out some of the guys at Signature Coins actually listen to the show. And when I contacted them, we connected immediately on our shared purpose of honoring this profession that I love so much. Daniel, Trey, Jeff, and all the other guys at Signature immediately put me at ease with making such a big purchase, and they bent over backwards to make sure that the coin I wanted that was in my head came out as a reality that I'm now holding in my hand. Now, if you're like me and you haven't drawn anything since it involved a crayon, have no fear. Signature Coins has 30 graphic artists on staff right in their Orlando office to help, and they don't charge a single penny to get your artwork ready for production. That is a big difference from other companies that often charge an artwork fee, or maybe you have to hire an outside designer. Signature Coins does all the art for free with no obligation to buy. They also have inclusive pricing, meaning that you're not going to get hit with a hidden upcharge at checkout, a 100% guarantee on their craftsmanship, and free next-day shipping in the U.S., and their customer service team is right there in Orlando. Their turnaround is quick, about 2 weeks, which is super fast for coins, and like I said, free next-day shipping when your coins are ready to go out the door. I couldn't be happier with my coins, and I couldn't be happier that I got them from Signature Coins. If you're looking to make a challenge coin of your own, you can find out more about them at signaturecoins.com or email info@signaturecoins.com, and Jeff will hook you up with a quote. If you use the coupon code TheSquadRoom, you'll get $50 off your first order. Learn more at signaturecoins.com. JP Dinnell, welcome back to the Squad Room, man. Nice to have you back.
Thank you for having me. How are you, my friend?
I've been great. The show, so the last time you were on the show was in episode 89, and I encourage everybody to look back to that episode. It's a great episode. I titled it, Nothing Happens on the Sidelines, and that was in August of 2018. And as the show was sort of ramping up with a new direction and a little bit more vigor, I reached out to you right away because you're the kind of guy that gets me excited to go do things.
Awesome.
And it's always nice to hear it directly and into my ears directly. So thank you for being back. For just the real brief version, in fact, I'm not even going to get into it because if they don't know who you are now, I'll do a short bio in the intro. But really, I think anybody who listens to my show knows who JP Dinnell is. I want to dive right into some things that are going on like right now, like the pandemic and everything that's going on with that. It's required a lot of adjustments. There's been a lot of, angst or anxiety about what's happening in the future, our safety, our family's safety. But I've also found some opportunities and some positives that have come out of it for me. And I'm wondering how you've been adjusting to this and if you found any opportunities during this pandemic.
Everything has shifted and changed, right? Obviously, unless you're, as I say, quote, an essential employee. But even for them, it's changed for everybody. And, one of the things that we teach and talk about at Echelon Front, which is the leadership and management consulting company that I work for, Jocko Willink, Leif Babin, they started that company. They brought me on board as an instructor. I was very fortunate to be the first instructor they brought on board 3.5 years ago. And, we have seen the shift and change within our own company. And, the biggest thing that we talk about when you're having to shift and change is being able to recognize that. And if you don't detach from your emotions, if you don't detach from the current situation, you're not going to be able to recognize what you need to do. And so that is one of the things that we had to do as a company and say, okay, hey, well, what we do is in-person training, right? That's everything that we do is, in-person training. And then some of our clients will supplement it with like Skype calls or Zoom calls or FaceTime or, just conference calls. But the majority of what we do and how we conduct business is in person. Now, just because we can't go travel and people can't get together, does that mean that our mission changed? No, our mission is still the same. Our mission is to provide the leadership principles and provide the lessons that we learned in combat and in training to companies and individuals across the world. Now, how we conduct that mission has changed, but it doesn't mean that that mission has changed. It doesn't mean that that mission is no longer an important mission that needs to be done. And so we sat back and we looked, okay, hey, what can we do? How can we provide a service to our clients? And we had our online leadership training program already put together. It wasn't something we had advertised much because we were still building it and tweaking it and making the changes that we needed, but we had that. And then we also recognize like, hey, we're going to need to be able to do stuff over the internet. So we created LeadNet, which is our leadership development training over the internet. And so now we can do keynotes, half-day workshops, full-day workshops over the internet with our clients without having to travel. And it actually is, for the most part, going to be more effective to our clients even when this does shift and change and we can go back to traveling, because we're able to be a little more focused. We're able to engage. The questions and answers are better to hear and see over Zoom. People are typing them in. We're getting to them. People are able to, explain themselves in front of the whole group. We were able to get multiple people engaging with each other, right? So if I'm talking to, let's say, a group of linemen, right? And I'm talking with their company, and one of the guys asked a question. If I can provide my feedback and my input, but if there's somebody on that Zoom call that's been in that industry for 20 years, why would I not want them to be able to engage and give some insight and feedback to this new guy, right, that asked a question? And so we're actually able to capture better conversations, better engagement with our clients by shifting. And so that's what we've done.
It's really interesting. It's like the tactic has changed, but the strategy remains the same. And I wonder how, for this audience of first responders, primarily law enforcement, we are still going out and dealing with a public that's in this kind of thrown into this environment. Our mission hasn't changed much, but we certainly have to adapt our tactics and our strategies.
Yeah.
What are in addition to detaching from that, what are some of the other things that you use and that you teach others and that you've used in combat to realize when you need to pivot and what you're doing isn't working and you need to pivot to something else and try something different?
Well, if you're aware of how you perform your duties, you should be able to be aware immediately that a pivot is needed. Because if what you're doing is not working and not effective, guess what? It's time for you to shift and change what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And that takes you just being a professional and having enough awareness of what you are doing. Now, those that are in law enforcement, you are completely failing yourself and you're failing your team if you are not putting yourself in stressful environments during training. You should be doing stress-induced training as much as it is possible. Because when there comes a time that you are going to have to engage with somebody in a stressful environment, whether that's a foot pursuit, a physical altercation, or if you have to use your weapon and engage with an individual or multiple individuals, if you've never done any of those things in a stress-induced environment where your heart rate is up, you're breathing hard, you have a lot of things to deal with, you're going to fail. You're not going to rise to the occasion. You're going to fall to the level of your training.
Yeah, it's absolutely correct. And when you say that and you're talking, it makes me think of a kind of a comparison, which isn't often thought of, because the stress inoculation training, absolutely true, absolutely crucial in those high threat, life or death environments, right? But as leaders and as people who are wanting to develop into leadership roles, I think we also miss the opportunity to do that stress inoculation when it comes to stepping up to lead others or to interact with our superiors. Have you ever experienced anything like that, or understand where I'm going with that? Like, you got to be able to put yourself out there in that way too, and be willing to be the one to step up and say, "I'm going to lead."
Oh, 100%. You mean leading that training?
Not only just leading that training, but okay, this I've only got 3 years on, right? And I'm kind of the new guy, but I'm not the newest guy, but I'm also not the veteran. I've got a sergeant and a lieutenant and a captain, etc., who know much more than me, but I don't want, there's this belief that we don't want to talk or interact with them because we need to be in our place. And I think that breeds some insecurity into people that they can't be leaders because they aren't engaging with those people, because it's intimidating. Like, I imagine the first time you checked into the teams, interacting with some of your rank was intimidating, right? But you had to go out there and get through those situations so that you could get comfortable interacting with them, so that you could be successful as you took leadership positions both in the teams and now in private business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And, that requires people having relationships. And, that comes down to our first law of combat that we talk about is cover and move, is about breaking down silos and building relationships with, people up and down the chain of command and in other departments as well. And so I was talking with some clients the other day about, a very important. I was talking with their frontline leaders, and they're having issues up the chain of command of the chain of command actually listening to them and them being able to step up and lead because they didn't feel comfortable doing it. And I asked them, well, how's your relationship? And there's like this pause, and nobody really said anything. I said, okay, well, there's my answer. Like, obviously, you guys don't have a good relationship, and they're like, well, yeah, but they're our bosses, And that's always the answer is people use, and it's an excuse. It's an absolute excuse by them saying, well, that's my boss. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not supposed to have a good relationship with them, or we're not friends. Jocko was my boss's boss, and I had the absolute best relationship with him because that's what I knew was important, and he knew it was important. So he built a relationship all the way down the chain of command and up, and I tried to build a relationship all the way up the chain of command as well, because when you have a relationship with somebody, you have trust. And when you have somebody's trust, you can over time build influence. And when you have influence, that's the times that you can comfortably say, hey, this is what we need to do, or hey, no, we're not doing that, and this is why. You can actually push back on an order that doesn't make sense if you have proven yourself to be reliable, if you've proven yourself to make good decisions, and if you have enough trust. And,
go ahead. No, go ahead. I don't want to stop you.
No, I was going to say, Jocko, we did a EF online live training yesterday, and Jocko was talking about being a yes man and a no man. And he said, hey, when JP was 21 years old in the SEAL teams, he wasn't just a yes man, he was a hell yes man. That he's like, I would ask JP to go do something. And I mean, Leif actually did a short little clip of this. So if you look at Leif's Instagram page, he did a video of Jocko talking about it, and he's like, I'd be saying, hey, JP, we need to go across the street and take down that building. He's like, as I'm saying building, JP's running across the street with this machine gun to go take down that building. And people, that either didn't fully listen to what Jocko was saying or truly pay attention. They were like, oh, you don't always want to be a yes man or surrounded by yes men. Well, what Jocko was saying is like, hey, because I was the individual that listened to my leadership, that trusted my leadership and didn't challenge them, I built up a relationship with them. Because anytime Seth asked me to go do something, I'd say, hey, roger that, and I'd go do it, because they would ask me to do things that made sense. And even if something didn't truly make sense, I was able to look at it and be like, is this really worth fighting over? No, I'll just go do it this way, right? I'll do it the way my boss wanted me to. And it benefited me, because there was times overseas when we were deployed that Seth was like, hey, this is what we're doing. And I was like, no, absolutely not. And this is why. And Seth never took offense to that. He wasn't like pushed back by it. There was no ego that was involved. It wasn't like I was challenging him. And Seth was like, oh, dude, JP's always saying yes. If he's saying no, there's a reason.
Yeah.
So you need to build a relationship with people. And I know I kind of got off topic as in regards to what you asked, but it all comes down to having a relationship and building trust with somebody so that you have that influence. And that's what's needed. And that's why we need to be training hard. Because if you are performing in hard training, if you're making yourself as an individual that's known to make the right call and do the right thing, then when it comes time in those real life situations, nobody's going to be like, hey, shut up, new guy. They're going to be like, okay, what you got?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's when you're talking like that, it strikes me that you got value out of being part of that group, and you trusted your superiors there, right? Yeah. And that they, in turn, trusted you, because, like you just said, whenever the rare times you did raise an objection, you were taken seriously. You weren't just blown off. But there had to be something to where you felt valued in that. And that, I don't want to get all, like, it sounds like touchy-feely, but it's true. I think that that when people come into any organization, especially a tight-knit unit like a police department squad or a platoon or anything else, you need to feel valued in order to feel like you can stand up and say no when the time is right. What are the things that your leaders there or in Echelon Front or anywhere else have done to help you feel valued?
Well, they've given me responsibility and they gave me ownership. If you want somebody to feel valued, you have to give them something to have a sense of pride over. Mm-hmm. And so everything that I've always done with Jocko and Leif at Echelon Front, obviously they provide guidance. At the very beginning, it wasn't like they're just like, all right, cool, go start speaking. But they would give guidance, and we'd actually have conversations back and forth in regards to what I thought, what they thought, how we should do something, how it should be said, how the brief should be put together. And nothing was ever dictated to me. They never said, this is exactly what you're going to do and this is how you're going to do it. Because they'd go against what they talk about in extreme ownership, which that was created based off of what they did in our task unit. Jocko was very smart in the fact that he's always building capital with people. And I think people really people need to be looking at every interaction with another individual. Are you making a withdrawal or a deposit of your capital, of your, what's another phrase for it? I just call it leadership capital, right?
No, yeah, it makes sense.
And that's everything.
Your personal equity.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Your personal equity. Think about that. I mean, are you married?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, you have withdrawals and deposits with your spouse.
Yes.
And if you're constantly making withdrawals, hey, eventually, brother, that account's going to go. It's going to run out, and you're going to have to make some deposits before you can make those withdrawals. And that's another thing that couples don't tend to understand is like, hey, if you don't think that's related to your sex life, you need to really rethink things. If you want a healthy sex life with your spouse, you need to be making deposits in addition to the constant withdrawals that you're making. And that goes for men and women. You need to be serving your spouse. Well, okay, if you detach from what I said in regards to sex, is that not the same principles for leadership? It's about having relationships, about communicating, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you as a boss are constantly making withdrawals from your team, you're eventually going to run out. You need to be making deposits with the equity that you have.
A question on too. You mentioned you work for Jocko now, and you did, of course, in the teams, and Jocko's become such a brand of motivation and leadership and that sort of stuff. And I wonder, in that environment, it seems like I'm just curious, how do you stay focused? Is it easy because you work for Jocko and you've just got him in your ear all the time and it's just like a natural byproduct, or what is it that you
close.
Okay, so tell me, I'm really curious. I'm glad you said that. What are the things you do to maintain motivation and focus in addition to just, listening to him?
Well, obviously, I listen to him. I listen to the podcast.
Sure. Yeah.
Some people be like, well, you have an advantage. You work for Jocko. And I'm like, well, okay, maybe. Maybe not, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I have more stress and pressure upon myself than other people do.
Yeah, no, I could understand that.
Bro, look at the guy. He's a Terminator, right? He's him and Leif are legitimate like machines. I'm just like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's
hard to keep up with them.
I can imagine.
Man, it's hard to keep up with them.
Yeah.
And if you start going down that route of like feeling sorry for yourself or be like, oh, this is really hard, then guess what? It becomes hard. It's just, but that's the thing is like I don't allow that mind set to come in. Like I don't allow that emotion, that belief to come into my mind that my life is hard and difficult, because it's not. I love what I do. I tell myself every single day, I get to do this. Mm-hmm. That's the same mindset. I know we talked about it on the last podcast, and if not, I apologize, because the thing I told myself every single day going through BUDS is I get to do this. And I was going through the hardest military training in the world, and I was able to make it through and enjoy every single day of that training. And when I was deployed, same thing. Every day on the team, same thing. And now I just tell myself I get to do this. So that helps me enjoy what I'm doing. It helps me not get overwhelmed. And, you know, the biggest thing that is going to help you stay focused in life is if you can detach from your emotions and prioritize and execute everything that's going on. That's the third law of combat that we talk about when we teach. So, you know, yeah, I have an advantage because I talk about prioritization with people. And guess what? It's not rocket science. It's nothing magical. I just apply it to my life. Like, everybody understands how to prioritize stuff. There's not like there's a secret formula to prioritizing things. You look at what you have to do. You say, okay, this is what I need to do. This is the biggest priority, and you get to work on it. And then if there's things that are on your list that you can delegate, then delegate it to somebody else. Relinquish a little bit of that control and let somebody else start working on some stuff. And, you know, the other thing is, like, I'm sitting in my office, and as you asked that question, I turned to my chair, and I'm looking at the wall where I have my platoon plaques, and I had pictures of Mikey Mansour, Seth Stone, Mark Lee, Brad Kavner, Aaron Vaughn, Derek Benson, JT Tomlinson, Ryan Jobe. These are all my buddies that have been killed. Luke Barker, Charles Keating, Chris Kyle. Those are all my friends. Those are all my friends that have died over the years. And if I don't do what I need to do, I'm not living my life to honor them. And on my whiteboard, I have be a great husband, a great father, and a great member of Echelon Front. It's a very simple thing. But I think about that in everything that I do. And it's like, okay, cool. If I want to be a great husband, what does that mean? All right. Is what I'm doing making me a great husband? Yes or no? And if it's a no, then I don't do that. If it's a yes, then okay. Same thing with being a great father. Yes or no? Great member of Echelon Front. Yes or no? What does that mean to be a great husband, a great father, a great member of Echelon Front? And when you can identify what you want to do, what you want to be great at, identify what you want to do, and then look at your actions. And if your actions fall into that and it gets you there, then cool. And if it doesn't, then change what you're doing. Change your mindset.
So what do you
change the people you spend time with?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a big one. Yeah. So what do you do when those things intersect? Those three: the be a good husband, be a good parent, and then be a good member of Echelon Front. Now, I'm beginning to believe that there's no such thing as a work-life balance, right? It's just all in one pot. It's just balance.
There absolutely is no perfect work-life balance.
So obviously, there are times when I imagine, Echelon Front takes you away from home.
Yes.
There are times when the kids take you away from Echelon Front or from your wife. Where those things rub up against each other, what do you do to make sure you're not getting too far off course?
Well, you have to find balance, and perfect balance in those categories does not exist. But if you can get close to it, that's okay. There's a reason why Jocko Willink wrote that Academy of Leadership. Mm-hmm. Because they understand that individuals are going to be pulled back and forth between two different opposing forces in life, especially as a leader. And so when I'm home and it's time for me to be present with my family, I try, and I don't always do this, but I try to be 100% present with them. When it's time for me to go to jiu-jitsu, that's why I love jiu-jitsu, is because when I'm on the mats, the only distraction is if my kids come into that section of the gym and start screaming and running, and then I'm like, all right, hold on, and then I go sit them down or whatever. But I'm not distracted during that time. Mm-hmm. And then when it's time for me to work, if I'm on the road, my wife doesn't blow me up. She doesn't bother me. She knows when I'm in the hotel room, like I'm working on my presentation for the next day. When I'm talking and presenting, my phone is turned off. Like, it's not on vibrate. It's not so I can check my messages during the break. It's off until I'm done with that training. I might turn it on during a lunch break, but most of the time I'm sitting and talking with clients. So guess what? That phone stays off until the very end of the day. And my wife understands that. She knows that. And there's times where training has gone late and I'm in a different time zone. The kids are asleep. So by the time I call, it's like, hey, cool. I get to talk to just you. Love you. Like, we'll talk through stuff. And the next day I'm starting before they're up. There's been times where I've gone like 3 or 4 days without talking to my kids because of the times of how long I was working. But you know what I would do is I would take videos and I would send them to Amanda, and she would watch the videos with the kids, and they would send videos back. And, so there's a balance. You're never going to be perfectly balanced, but you need to try to get close to the middle. But the biggest thing is, like, you have to be 100% when you're doing that one thing. You can't be 100% all the time for family. You can't be 100% all the time for work. But when you're working, be 100% work. When you're family, be 100% family.
Yeah, I think that can relate to, or any law enforcement officer with any time on understands that, and that idea of being able to compartmentalize, right? And
take off your uniform, right? And I say, for me, it's like, hey, take your gear off, put your gear on. Mm-hmm. And for you in law enforcement, before, like, when you come home, don't walk through the door in your uniform, because you're still engaged in your work mode. Change before you head home. And someone's going to make an excuse. Oh, well, that's hard. That's difficult. Or, I don't have access to the locker room, whatever. Like, dude, don't go home in your uniform if your wife and kids are there, or your husband and kids are there. Detach, change that. Mm-hmm. Because when it's time for you to be home, it's time for you to be home.
Yeah, I think that's an absolute great piece of advice. I think it also adds an element of mental deregulation,
And it takes discipline.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the mental deregulation, what you're about to, talk about is huge. People don't do that enough.
Yeah, I think it's a really missing component in activating that parasympathetic system to, kind of tell your body and tell your mind, okay, I'm done with that. I'm safe now. I need to go engage with the family. There's this idea of the magic chair that's been written about before, where you come home from a 12-hour shift and you collapse into this chair and you don't get out of it until you fall asleep in it and go to bed that night. Like, that's not how we live our lives. It can't be. That's how we get divorced, and that's how our kids hate us, and that's how we end up a statistic. We have to stay engaged, and the best way to do that is to keep those things compartmentalized as best we can.
Yeah.
I'm curious too about, because we talk so much about leadership on the show, you talk so much about it. We all are on a progression. We're all on a path. How has your leadership style or your knowledge or lessons changed from when we talked in 2018? What's been new since then?
Just learning to be learning to be more decentralized, because we started the FTX program, which is our field training exercises that we conduct. So it's experiential leadership training. It's hands-on leadership training that we are running with companies across the United States. Mm-hmm. And we've had a couple international requests as well, but it's all been the United States right now. And we're actually getting ready to open it up to individual consumers, to where, let's say, somebody out there is listening, is like, hey, I have a company with 2 people. Like, I can't, I don't have 25 people for the training, but that one person, or him and his one employee, can come conduct that training. It's the most impactful training that we actually have at Echelon Front, because it's hands-on. You're learning these principles, you're seeing them, you're feeling them, and then we directly tie them back into what you do professionally.
How do you guys do that? Do you do it? Is it customized to the profession or the industry, or is it?
Yeah. So we do. The debriefs are, but what it is, it's scenario-based leadership training, where we're actually going out there and you're conducting capture-kill missions against my role players. It's the same type of training I ran in the SEAL teams. Mm-hmm. And so Jocko and Leif was like, hey, let's do the FTXs like you and myself, and like Jocko and Leif both ran those types of training, right? And so we're like, hey, let's start doing that at Echelon Front. And so,
sorry, go ahead.
No, so at first we were doing it with airsoft, and because it has that cool factor to it, but also there's a safety risk there. And so we had a company that was like, no, I don't want to do airsoft. Can we do laser taggers? Well, I found a local guy that had these awesome military grade laser tag systems. And so now there's no safety risk, right, of you being shot with an airsoft pellet. I don't have to worry if your eye protection falls off. I'm not having to stop it, right? It completely eliminates the risk that is associated with airsoft and paintball. And so we rotate through positions of leadership. So, you're going to rotate through the officer in charge, the assistant officer in charge, the squad leaders, the fire team leaders, and then being just an individual contributor and shooter. And so we do multiple runs throughout the day, rotating through positions of leadership, and the missions escalate. As the day goes on, they get harder and more complex, and you have to work through things. And it really shows you why communication is important. How is it important? And then you debrief and talk about, okay, the problems that I just had on this mission, how does that relate to what you're doing at work? Okay, cool. Now that we have that connection, what do we need to shift and change at home and at work to come out on the other side victorious with your mission? So it's amazing. It's awesome training. And so when we first started that training, I was super hands-on because I had to be, because my junior FTX members and teammates weren't in the SEAL teams with me, right? They didn't run this training. They were there helping support and build out the program, but they didn't know what I knew and Jocko knew and Leif knew for this type of training. So I had to be super hands-on, but I also knew that I always couldn't be hands-on. So it really forced me to learn to teach again, right? And it was to teach Cody and Cowie how to run this training if I wasn't there. And, so Cody Gandy is one of our junior instructors at Echelon Front now. But when he first came on, it was just for him to help part-time, like just literally to help with 2 weeks worth of FTXs. And, after he, did that, we gave him the opportunity to come on full-time. He ended up doing 4 of them in 2018 at the end. So 4 weeks worth, and then we offered him a position. And he came on full-time in 2019, and now he's our experiential leadership training operations manager. So he now runs all the backside of all these FTXs, all the logistics. He has his, his lead that he's grooming and training. And so it's, I've had to really work on my ability to teach and to let go, right? And just let these guys run with it. Mm-hmm. Which is cool because I never had to do that before because I didn't have anybody working for me. But now I do, and now I have a team.
That's cool. That's a neat change and progression, and it's an obvious next step in all the things that it's written about by Jocko and Leif and everything you talk about.
In ancient Rome, soldiers would step into battle to fight for the empire, but they also had bills to pay and family back home to support. Doesn't that sound familiar? Well, if soldiers performed well in battle, they would be paid in gold coins. If they performed with exceptional valor, they would be given an extra coin. Legend has it that this coin was often minted with the name and symbol of the legion in which they served, and that soldiers would hold on to these coins as proof of their bravery. This made their coins a prized possession. Throughout history, unique coins have been part of nearly every warrior tradition. There's a story from World War I in which an American pilot was held captive as a German POW and stripped of all of his personal identification. He escaped the POW camp but was detained by the French who thought he was a German spy. He carried with him a coin with a symbol that one of the French soldiers recognized as that of an American squadron. The coin saved his life. Challenge coins remain an important part of this warrior tradition, including those in law enforcement and the other first responder professions. Signature Coins out of Orlando, Florida is my choice for challenge coins for the squad room. Their staff of artists can create and make most any design a reality, and their quality is top-notch. The people at Signature Coins are complete professionals like you, and they take their jobs seriously. Quality is their priority, and I can tell you that it shows in the squad room coins that I ordered from them. You can check out their handiwork on my Instagram at the squad room. For more information or to get a free quote with no artwork fee, check out their website at signaturecoins.com. If you use the coupon code THESQUADROOM, you can get $50 off your first order. That's signaturecoins.com. Now, back to the show.
I wonder, I think any cop can understand the value of simunitions training or any role-play scenario type of training, right? Like, it's obvious, we get it. And for me, one of the challenges is you get a good team together, you have a squad of 5, 10, 15 patrol guys, and you can train together, and you get good at this, and you get cohesive, but it takes time, and it takes going over it and over and over it. And I know that in the teams you had a similar training, you had even a more consistent training schedule than we certainly do, where you're just able to train with the same people over and over and over again. And I'll get to the point here in a second, but so for me, that's valuable training, but then, people get promoted, people retire, people get a specialty spot, a new guy comes in, new guy doesn't know any of this. Now you got to get him up to speed. And there's a constant rotation like this. And I can't imagine in a corporate environment where you don't have access to like role-playing simulations training on a regular basis, these lessons can get lost if not careful. So how do you make sure that stuff sticks?
That's a great question. And actually, we have more rotation in the SEAL teams than I think you do in law enforcement, because you do a workup, you do a deployment, and then guys rotate out of that platoon, and then you get new guys. We're getting new guys every 2 years, bro. Mm-hmm. So, and then you're rotating instructors that are at the training command. And, it's just all these, things that we're constantly rotating our guys. And so you have to keep a log of the lessons that are learned, right? There has to be standards in your training. There needs to be standard operating procedures that you adhere to that are passed down. And then, the thought that you can't train every day, that's an excuse. You can actually train every single day. Now, it doesn't have to be crazy, long, drawn out hours worth of training, but could you do 10 to 15 minutes of some sort of training every day?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing, bud, every industry I've asked that question, guess what their answer is? Absolutely. Because when you think about it, 10 to 15 minutes, everybody has 10 to 15 minutes, because even the people that are like, I'm so busy from the time I start till the time I end, they all really are able to look and say, hey, well, I could get 3 minutes here. I could get 5 minutes here. There's some wasted time here. So everybody could start off their day with 5 to 10 minutes of training, or 10 to 15 minutes of training. And you could and training doesn't have to be simunition. Training doesn't have to be live fire out at the range. Could you, in let's say at your police department, right? You have the gym. You make sure guys are completely cleared and safe, right? So you clear and safe your weapons. You check all the magazines that's on their belt. Those magazines are empty. You do buddy checks. Okay, everyone's guns are clear and safe. Magazines are completely cleared. Could you practice doing draws and reloads for 15 minutes?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but guess what? Nobody wants to do that because that's not cool.
Right.
And that would require discipline.
Mm-hmm.
You could practice doing magazines and dry fires for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You could do a quick little workout, get the heart rate elevated, and then work through some transitions on the ground. Like, hey, if I have a guy on top of me, I need to protect my weapon. I need to get myself in a dominant position. You could do that for 5 minutes. Could you sit in front of a whiteboard and talk through different scenarios and say, hey, we have to go serve this high-risk warrant. This is the layout of the building. This is our avenue of approach. Talk me through what we're doing. Absolutely. You could do that every single day. People just make bullshit excuses as to why they can't train.
Yeah, I hope
And I'm sorry, like if what I just said offended you, bro, hang up your badge. You're going to get somebody killed because you're lazy and complacent.
Yeah, I hope
And you don't want to be the guy
that
does that, or the girl that does that, right?
Yeah, of course not. Yeah, I hope every patrol sergeant or any sergeant who's in charge of people or any corporal hears that, understands that they have an ability to do any of that at any time.
Yes.
Countless nights at 3 a.m. when nothing's going on and you find an open door that we practice building searches as a team, or, canine tracks or any of those things. Like, there are opportunities. Don't wait for the department to pay for the training, because it's not coming.
Yeah. Exactly. Sorry, I get fired up about that.
That's all good. I like it. Because it's true.
Because people make excuses.
Yeah.
And bro, here's the thing. I'm not hating on cops, because me. I love cops.
Absolutely.
I love law enforcement. I have a lot of family members that are in it. What I hate is the attitude of mindset that cops bring to the table, that they can't do anything about their current situation. Mm-hmm. I don't have funding. I don't have the gear. You can do something about it. You can dry fire.
Yeah.
You can talk through scenarios. You can do some sort of training every single day. You can make excuses, or you can make things happen. You can't do both.
Yeah, and to add to what I just said too about, I hope every patrol sergeant hears this. That's true. But I also hope that people understand that you don't have to wait around for the sergeant to come up with something to go out and be effective and to get in some extra training. Grab a couple of your buddies and go do some work and invite the sergeant, and if he doesn't want to come, that's on him. But invite your buddies out, plan something simple and work on it. Even if it's just high risk stops in the middle of an empty Walmart parking lot, do something. Fill that time.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. I mean, the resources that you guys have and the common like think tank, knowledge that you guys have. I mean, you can come up with something, and you should. That's your absolute duty. Like, there's a lot of people that say success is your duty. Well, that's not just a financial thing. Success of accomplishing your goals, your mission, coming home. That's your duty.
And so on that, I want to talk about that. On accomplishing your goals, how do you set goals? I'm in this quandary right now where I've kind of transitioned in this idea from, I've heard of SMART goals to more process-oriented, meaning like what's the next right thing, and only focusing on that next step, knowing that I have a general path, right? But that next step is what I focus on. How do you set your goals?
Well, I evaluate my current situation. I look at where I want to go, where I need to go, and I just, kind of reverse engineer it. Like if it's something that's going to take 6 months, okay, cool. I reverse engineer it and be like, okay, well, if this is going to take about 6 months to accomplish, okay, where do I need to be at the 5 month mark, the 4 month, the 3 month, the 2 month, the 1 month? Okay, get those little timelines kind of laid out, and then break down the month. Okay, each week this is what I need to be doing. And then you break down the day. This day, each day I have to be doing this to accomplish this for the week. And if I accomplish this for the week, I'm on track to doing week number 2. If I accomplish week number 2, I'm on track to do number 3. If I don't accomplish week number 3, what am I behind? What do I need to make up for all those individual days to get me back on track so that we can finish that month successfully? And hey, that requires you taking some time and being disciplined on breaking things down and thinking, because that's the thing. People don't think on their own. They just want somebody else to tell them how to be disciplined. They want somebody else to tell them how to be organized. They want somebody else to tell them, what type of training to go do. And that it was like you're just saying, like, hey, you don't have to wait for anybody to go tell you to train. You don't even have to. You don't even need your leadership to participate in the training. You take ownership of that. One of the things I love, that Jocko talks about, and I was just talking about it on Mama Lee's podcast, is the best incentive you can give somebody is control over their destiny, and that means by giving them ownership to make decisions. And that's what you can do as an individual. The best thing that you can do is to actually take control over your destiny.
That's great. I'm writing that down because I love.
I'll say it again. The best incentive you can give someone is control over their destiny.
Yeah, that's such a missed element, I think, of so many. It's so simple and obvious, but it's so missed oftentimes by new leaders or by leaders who are not willing to put themselves out there and acknowledge that the relationship between a subordinate and a supervisor is a two-way street, right? And that you need their trust as much as they need yours. And I think that's such a crucial element of any leadership training. That's fantastic. I love that. I'm curious too. You posted something on Instagram the other day that got me thinking, knowing we were going to be talking today. And you're a parent, just like I am. I got 2 kids. You have 3, right? And this homeschooling with the pandemic, and I think by the time people are listening to this, we're starting to come out of it and starting to come up for air. But it really has given me a lot of value in the time that I've been able to spend with the kids. My wife works as well, so we're kind of like juggling them and sharing duties. And so I'm interacting with them a lot more than I would on any normal, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so I'm realizing, though, where there are some deficiencies in how and where I'm leading them, and in where I have opportunities to improve in the leadership role as the parent. And so I was wondering how you make sure that you're passing on the lessons you've learned in any part of your life? How are you making sure you pass those on to your kids? What are the actual things you do to make sure they are getting that knowledge?
That's a great question. So we have to stick to obviously their schooling guidelines and requirements. But we've been really trying to help them just read outside the lines of what's been given to them at school to really think on their own in regards to, okay, hey, this is what you have to do. What should you be doing today? Like, what's your plan? What's your schedule for the day? And we've made little checklists and calendars and schedules for them to follow. They make them up. We try to let them follow it. Like, hey, what time do you want to wake up? Like, what time do you think you should wake up? And like, hey, like if you're going to be getting up at this time, like how late do you want to stay up? And like really giving them the ability to like kind of make these decisions on their own. There's been a few times where like, oh, cool, you want to stay up until 11? Okay, cool. And then we know, guess what? The next day they're going to be super tired and they're going to be exhausted. But you can tell somebody that they're going to be tired and exhausted, or you can actually let them be tired and exhausted. And then guess what? They remember being tired and exhausted. They remember that little, are you there? Sorry.
Yeah.
They remember what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing that we do in that experiential leadership training. We let them make mistakes so they can actually like feel it. And then once they feel it, they don't make that mistake again, or they don't make it as much. Right. And so my wife has been amazing with just kind of letting the kids just grow on their own. And, it's like, hey, we're going to go outside and play. Cool. Teaching them that being outside and being active is important. Like, hey, what you eat actually affects you throughout the day. So if you're going to eat a bunch of junk food in the morning, guess what? You're going to feel shitty, and when they do, guess what? They don't feel good. But when they have healthy breakfast, it's great. Like the kids this morning were wanting scrambled eggs with ham and bacon and cheese. They wanted a good, healthy breakfast. They were drinking their greens and reds. And there's been a couple of times like the kids like, hey, can you make us some milk protein shakes? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Because they know when they eat healthy, they feel good. They can perform. They have energy. And they understand that if they eat a bunch of junk food, that they're not going to feel good. And then, hey, we're going to do a workout. What do you guys want to do? And then we kind of give them ownership over picking a workout, leading it. Like, hey, cool, we're going to go for a hike today. All right, let's go. Hey, you want to go for a bike ride? Okay, cool, we're going for a bike ride today. Hey, you want to do Muay Thai at the house? Cool, we're going to do Muay Thai at the house. And just letting them make decisions and understand how, if they don't have good time management, they don't get to do the stuff that they want, because no matter what, they've got to get the work done. And if they don't stay focused, well, and what's been awesome is, and I'm telling you, like, you can't say it's what I'm saying doesn't work and what my wife has been doing doesn't work, because Tuesday night, my daughters had all their schoolwork done for the whole week.
Wow.
So guess what yesterday and today was, and tomorrow is?
Free days.
Yes, it's free days. They call it their weekends. They have 5-day weekends.
That's a great lesson in accountability to self and initiative.
Yeah, and discipline equals freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
right.
If you're disciplined with this, you're gonna have freedom. Now, does it mean that we just let them completely screw off on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday? No, they're still doing their reading, because that's another thing is. Everyone in our family reads every day. Everyone does some sort of an exercise, physical activity every single day. And there's still continuation training. And that was as cool as like my kids actually like it. They want to be doing the continual education, the extra work, because they said it helps them be better for their actual homework and schoolwork.
Mm. That's great. You're setting them up, man. That's setting them up for success. That's fantastic. So, you've had a couple transitions. We talked about transitions the last time you were on, and that's why we titled it "Nothing Happens on the Sidelines," because you were jumping in with both feet. What's next for you? What's the next mission for you?
It's just continuously growing what we're doing at Echelon Front right now. So right now, as in the current situation that we are in, helping our online presence grow for our online training program. Like that's big, so I'm doing a bunch of videos and recording videos for EF Online. So Jocko and Leif created our online leadership training program a while ago. We had never really been heavy on promoting it because we were still trying to grow it, make tweaks, adjust it. It just naturally grew, right? We literally didn't really ever advertise it, and people caught on. They found it. They're like, "Oh, you guys have an online training program?" We're like, "Yeah." It's where you can literally go watch videos, take tests, progress along with the materials that we have for Echelon Front. But with all this COVID-19, we're like, all right, cool. Let's go all in with that. And so right now it's helping EF Online grow. That platform that we're developing is legitimately going to change the world. There is no other, and I confidently say this, there is no other platform like we're about to release.
That's
There's
awesome.
nothing out there. There's nothing out there. And it's so amazing. And what's so cool, and this really showed me the heart of Jocko and Leif, is before COVID happened, we were actually talking about lowering the price. So if somebody wants to go to efonline.com and get a website and get an account, it used to be, it was just like over $400 per person. And that was cheap for what you had access to. That was super cheap. And now it's I think it's like we're going back and forth. It's $24.95 and then $12.99 a month. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. $12.99 a month. That's like a Netflix subscription, right?
Yeah.
And every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're doing a live training. So every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Jocko and Leif are doing a live training with Q&A to all of our members. And then like tonight at 9 p.m. Central, Leif Babin and Jason Gardner are doing a live training, right? And I'll be on that. Steve Ward's going to be on that. So, I mean, we're doing 4 to 5 live trainings a week. And then if you have access to that, you're able to watch all of the sessions. So let's say you're working tonight, right? And you're like, hey, I can't join that training. Well, tomorrow morning you can log into your account and you can watch the training. So it's incredible. And so my new mission right now is to help build materials for that, help build training programs and certification programs, because we're looking to get all of our material post-certified across the United States, to where when we do in-person and online training, it'll be post-certified, which is something I've been trying to work on. And then also down the road, when all this opens up, is build out the experiential leadership training program to where we have multiple teams that can run those trainings at the same time, and to where I'm not needed to be at any of those trainings. That's the goal. Although I want to be at all of them because I love it, but the goal is, hey, I don't need to be there. I shouldn't be there.
That's awesome. That's a great new mission, and look forward to seeing it. I want to end on a question I often try to ask guests, and I think you're a perfect person to ask this of. It's a quote I use on the show a lot, and a call to action I use for my listeners: to be the one. And I know you've heard this quote at some point, but I'll share it with you just to refresh your memory. And it's an old quote from Heraclitus, back in the day. And it says, out of every 100 men, 10 shouldn't even be there. 80 are just targets. 9 are the real fighters, and we are lucky to have them, for they make the battle. Ah, but the one is a true warrior, and he will be the one to bring the others back. And I use that quote as an example, and as, like I say, a call to action to be the one to my audience, so that they can be the one in their communities. And I want to ask you, what does that mean to you? What does be the one mean to you?
Well, if you're the one, that means that, to me, that's somebody that takes ownership of everything in their life. They don't make excuses. They don't blame other people. They take ownership over everything that's in their life. They understand that there are certain things that you can control and certain things that you can't. And if you waste energy and time on things that you can't control, that takes away from the things that you can control. You can control your attitude. You can control telling the truth. You can control how you react to something, and you can control being a good teammate. You can control being a person of integrity and honor. You can control your work ethic. And if you want to be the one, that means that you have a work ethic that inspires others to work hard, that you tell the truth no matter what, you don't make excuses, and you find a way to serve others.
I think that's the best answer I've ever gotten to that question. JP, where can people find out more about you on socials and more about Echelon Front?
Well, so Echelon Front, if you go to echelonfront.com, that has all the information on who we are, what we do, how we do it. That's echelonfront.com. That's echelonfront.com. As an individual, I am at JP Dinnell on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That's JP D as in David, INNELL. And then, Echelon Front is also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So, give us a follow. If you have questions, comments, concerns, reach out. Sometimes there's a delay on me getting to my messages just because I get a crazy amount of unique messages. But, it's good. Life is good. I'm very blessed to be in the position that I'm in. And I just, I hope that my actions are honoring my brothers that are hung on my wall. And I hope all that are listening, you find a way to honor your fallen. Because we all have somebody in our life that we wish was still there. Or we know of somebody that we wish we could honor with our actions. So, break down every single day as to how you can be a great spouse, a great father, and a great member of whatever organization you are a part of.
JP, thanks for another great episode of fantastic advice. I knew I wanted you back on for these exact reasons, and you absolutely delivered. Thank you for sharing with us how you do your goals and how you stay focused and motivated and how you lead through these changes that were going on and self-evaluate. So thank you so much for your time today. It's been absolutely awesome.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
All right, thanks for listening to this interview with JP Dinnell. If you want to know how you can support the show, there's a few ways that you can do that. First, if you like something you heard today, if you got something out of this conversation, please consider leaving a review on the podcast player of your choice. Please also leave a comment with your review and leave an honest one. Next, share this episode or any other episode you loved with people you know need to hear it, a partner, a loved one, a friend. And you can share the episodes right from our webpage at thesquadroom.net or from most podcast players. Next, join our Facebook group and follow me on Instagram at The Squad Room. Special thanks to our sponsors for today's episode, Signature Coins. If you're looking for a challenge coin for your agency or specialty unit, check them out at signaturecoins.com and use the coupon code The Squad Room for $50 off, all one word. If you're shopping for Ranger Up clothing, go to rangerup.com and don't forget to use the coupon code The Squad Room to get 10% off your order. And of course, if you're looking for the best fitting ballistic helmets that exceeds NIJ standards and won't break the bank, check out hardheadveterans.com and use the coupon code SQUADROOM to get $20 off your helmet. All right, until next time, take care of each other and stay safe.